Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you can hear me. Good morning. I know that our room is going to fill up by the time we finish this presentation. I'd like to welcome you to this panel discussion this morning, which is titled WWF Facilitated Community Resilience in Zambia, Pre- and Post-COP27. So in this panel discussion, what we hope to achieve is ensure that we have understanding of what our communities are doing in collaboration with WWF Zambia. At the end of this panel discussion, we hope that you understand what is being done on the ground and how we hope to keep our communities resilient. At this point, I would like to welcome a panel of discussants from Zambia. A few more are still coming on the way, and we will introduce them at the time that they come through. First is our country director, Madam Nachilala Nkombo, who is the country director and chief executive officer for WWF Zambia. And secondly, we have Dr. Bowen Banda, who is the climate change adaptation specialist and based in the VCA project. Welcome to the panel. Okay. Firstly, I would like to understand, as a layman, I'd like to understand what community resilience is. And I would like to give a bit of a definition so that we understand where we are going. Community resilience is the sustained ability for communities to withstand, adapt to, and recover from adversity. Our theme, therefore, is to discuss inclusive conservation in the context of community resilience in Zambia. I hope that reads well. So just to give a bit of a background, Zambia has so much economic growth potential, but high levels of poverty, hunger, biodiversity loss, changing climate, high levels of vulnerability to climate impact, increasing frequency of droughts and flooding and other associated developmental challenges are real. Inclusive conservation through inclusive biodiversity restoration, society resilience building is also possible in Zambia. WWF Zambia is contributing to biodiversity and livelihoods restoration process by working with various stakeholders, including communities at risk and custodians of the natural resources, especially in rural areas. And that's why on the panel today, we have the chief who we're going to see very soon. WWF is also working with other partners in the urban segments of Zambia to educate the masses on sustainable utilization of energy, including dangers of continuous use of charcoal, a solid biomass fuel compared to electricity. The challenge is that of hydro-supplied electricity is expensive for the masses, but leaving the country with a surplus due to combination of factors that is exported. High cost of domestic electricity on one hand, and the high demand of cheaper charcoal, a solid biomass fuel for cooking, worsens the vicious circle of tree cutting for charcoal burning in rural areas. Unfortunately, charcoal is considered a livelihood source for some rural masses and supplies urban areas that proves a ready market. Okay, sure. The high demand of charcoal in urban areas, the high poverty levels in rural areas forces rural communities to harvest natural resources in unsustainable ways, to maximize on the little profit they make to sustain themselves at the expense of biodiversity loss. WWF, however, also works with government in the background to influence policy and with other partners to implement the integrated and inclusive conservation activities. Overall theme for this event is to demonstrate, let me just emphasize that, is to demonstrate conservation pre- and post-COP in the ecosystems, protections, as well as restoration of effort sustainable livelihood, amplifying community climate justice voice across the board. So our story is going to be told by the locals from Zambia. And allow me now to turn to the panel to just get an overview of what this discussion is. Madam Nachalan Kombo, just for those who might not know her, is a conservationist and passionate advocate for gender empowerment and social inclusivity in conservation programming. So she is going to give us a very rich background of what we've been doing in Zambia, and we hope to hear from her just now. And the next person who is sitting next to her is also a specialist in food systems and livelihood programming, disaster risk sciences, urban and regional planning. So we believe that the panel that we have in front of us is going to give us a wealth of information that we need for our panel today. Madam Nachalan Kombo, you are the country director and thus chief executive officer for WWF Zambia. In 4 minutes, kindly explain to the audience the overall mission for WWF Zambia in this COP. What would you like to achieve from this side event and the COP27 in general?
Thank you so much, Benetria. I want to take this opportunity to welcome all of you to this session, special session, where we're discussing the topic of resilience in Zambia, pre-COP and post-COP. We want to share the WWF Zambia experience, but also we want to learn from you. So we would like this really much to be a dialogue in terms of what works. WWF Zambia has, over the years, been working at the ecosystem level, at the policy level, and right at the community level to support resilience building strategies against various shocks, climate change being one of them, and COVID-19 in the last couple of years being another. So in the Zambian context, when we're talking about building resilience, we're really talking about building the resilience of communities so that they're food secure, building their resilience so that their income's secure, and also building their resilience so that they're not thrown off balance when they lose their assets or the capacities to respond to any shocks or adverse challenges. So as WWF, we have basically partnered with communities in several parts of Zambia. We are supporting what we commonly refer to as a conservation agriculture farming program, which is working with over 6,400 farmers, really supporting them with training and education and input support to facilitate food production. But what we've learned also working with the communities is that to build their resilience, they have to diversify what they are producing, and they also have to produce the crops that can be successful within their changed climate scenario. So we have farmers in the areas where we are working, having shifted from producing maize only, which is very common among small-scale farmers in Zambia, to producing a range of crops that are not only helpful in terms of diversifying the income sources, but also have a positive net impact on the natural environment. Some of the things that we do with the communities is really making sure that we are enhancing and promoting land management practices that ensure that there is essentially no need for these farmers to expand land that's under cultivation if they use the land that they have productively. So for the last to about 10 years, the 6,400 farmers that WWF has worked with has not expanded the land that they have used. That land has still been productive. Over the years, we've also added some programs that are looking at how the asset base or the resource base that communities do have can be better harnessed or managed. So within these community areas, communities have been supported to bring close to 100,000 hectares of communities and other community forest management. What all this means is that communities have a voice in terms of how these forests are managed, but also have been supported to develop businesses or products that provide them as alternative source of income from hardcore agriculture in terms of non-timber forest products. So for example, we're looking at supporting in one community the development of what is called the Devil's Claw, which is a forest product which we're encouraging communities to sustainably manage because it's got a number of medicinal properties that are not used only in the for health purposes, but also for cosmetic. We think that that could be an opportunity to transform people's lives. So in terms of looking ahead, essentially our plans at the WWF level is to basically increase the number of ecosystems or places where we work with this particular approach so that we can impact more communities and more ecosystems. So we've largely been working in southwest Zambia. We're moving to the east of Zambia to replicate a similar program. But the work that we're doing is that we are not just looking at what is happening on the field level, but we're also looking at the whole system. To what extent is natural resource government? To what extent is the food system where farmers or communities are participating? How is it open? And part of our support has been to strengthen their capacity to influence, voice and policy making. Going forward, as WWF Zambia at a strategic level, we know that we may not be able to reach all parts of the country and transform our ecosystems and support communities that are impacted by climate change. So we are targeting two pockets of public finance. The first pocket is what is called the Constituency Development Fund. This is a fund that the new government in Zambia has increased and is meant to support community development programs. The work that we're doing with our partners in the Voices for Just Climate Alliance is to ensure that these funds at the local level are made climate smart, meaning communities are supported to identify and design projects that are going to help them build their resilience. The government is also reforming its agriculture support program, and again, we as WWF have the viewpoint that the agriculture support of the future cannot be the way in which it was in the past. We are looking forward to an agriculture policy that is anchored on a transformed food system in its entirety, from production to processing and to markets. So what we've had in Zambia in terms of food has left communities vulnerable because most of them have depended on a single crop production. Of course, the ones that WWF is working in have diversified, but our concern also is for the larger country. So we would like the new agriculture policy or public finance program to be more sensitive to more climate resilient and diversified and nutritious food items to be supported to be produced at scale, but in a way that has minimum damage to the environment. So I just wanted to maybe just share what we're doing and also what we're looking at doing strategically. We want to scale up at the WWF level what we are doing in terms of building resilience, but also we want to influence the policy environment so that the benefits and the impacts are beyond the WWF operational areas. Thank you very much. And maybe before you come in, just to say that His Royal Highness Chief Mukuni, who's one of our key partners, I think is running late, so he's going to join us, so please forgive him when he comes through. We don't know what happened with the traffic in Sham. And our partner, Maggie Mapalo, in sick. She's one of the partners that we work with at the grassroots level on these initiatives. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Country Director, for that. And just a recap of what the country director has said. So we work with various partners, with communities in conservation agriculture. She's mentioned that we work with over 4,600 farmers in Zambia that have to diversify their crops that help them to build resilience. So I think this is a very big number that we can look at. She's also mentioned in the works that we are doing with the government, we are influencing policy and ensuring that, we look at the two areas of finance that are being led in the government in Zambia, which is the community development funds that we need, as well as the new government policy that we need to look at to ensure that whatever is going to be done through those finances is going to be climate smart. So those were the words from the country director. Apologies. And now we go to Dr. Bowen Banda. In 5 minutes, would you be care to explain what specific activities WWF is implementing in Zambia to enhance inclusive conservation and resilience pre and post-COP?
Thank you very much. Maybe before I go to give the specifics, allow me to mention this, and for the benefit of our audience here and also for the donors, that my role is to ensure that the science is well articulated, the hardcore science and the social science in the work we do. This is very critical because it brings in the element of quality assurance in the resilience work that we are doing. Because resilience can be a complex concept depending on how you look at it. And WWF has been considered to be more into wildlife in the past, but it's not really about wildlife. It's about human beings, facilitating them to conserve nature for their livelihoods. So that whole process is resilience. And depending on which perspective, again, you look at resilience, there are others who would want to look at resilience exclusively from the ecosystems perspective. But our title is talking about community resilience, which is emphasizing that WWF is now, or has always been, but people probably did not realize, has always put people at the center, which is why we are talking about community resilience. But when you talk about community resilience, it incorporates ecosystems resilience in our context. That's why in our theme, you introduced and talked about inclusive conservation. So with this background, this session here, we are trying to demonstrate or showcase to the donors out there that as we look at inclusive conservation, we are also looking at the elements of integration. We have many projects, and the idea is, even if they are funded by different donors, but when it comes to implementation, they are well integrated, both conceptually and in practice, and both urban segment and the rural segment, because these, when it comes to implementing activities, can be very different. But as the WWF Zambia, we are doing that and making sure that the integration is well undertaken, the inclusivity is well addressed according to SDG 5 and SDG 16, and to package all this, putting people at the center. Quickly now, maybe in 1 minute, about the specific programs we are doing. So as my CD has said, as Nachila has said, we have programs to do with food systems production up to the fork. Then we have programs to do with land restoration and reforestation and land use management, which is funded differently. We also have a program to do with the just climate action, or exclusively human rights aspect of climate change, integrating with resilience. So these are implemented in different landscapes, but we make sure that even when they are in different landscapes, they speak to one another, they are well coordinated and well articulated, so that they, at the end of the day, the impact is one and the same. I can go into details to give the specific activities we do in these programs. But as I said, the idea is that the community themselves, our role is to facilitate, and the community themselves, they know about these concepts of resilience. So we go into the community, facilitate, and they tell us what they need to address resilience in the context of climate change, adaptation, and mitigation. I think I can end there, but I can still elaborate more in case you need. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc, for that. Of course, he mentions integration and inclusivity in the packages that we deliver at WWF Zambia. And he's also gone into detail to talk about the food systems, land use management, as well as the inclusive human rights programs that we run. I'm sure this is to do with the Voices for Climate Action. So I would like to now look at WWF Country Director. You mentioned that you work with over 4,600 farmers. How does the 6,447, apologies for that, 6,447 farmers. How does WWF Zambia collaborate with other conservation partners in Zambia and the globe? And which one of these projects is your favorite?
So we have partnerships in Zambia at many levels. At the very community level, we work closely with what we call community resource boards. These are community conservation organizations that are charged with coordinating community activities around conservation. We also work with the Ministry of Agriculture local office, because we want to make sure that the extension service is consistent with what we believe are the best approaches for conservation, agriculture, and extension in the area. We work with a number of players depending on which part of the value chain we are working. So for example, when it comes to the issue of climate resilient seed, we work with a research organization called ZARI, Zambia Agriculture Research Institute. In terms of private sector players, we also work with a company called AfriSeed. As you may be aware or not, part of the other line of activities in communities diversifying their income, they actually do is seed multiplication. So for them to multiply their seed, we had to connect them to an off-taker or a buyer that will ensure that what they are producing and they're not using, they can sell it onwards. In terms of my favorite project, I think there is a project that is led by women who have really led the way in showing how a diversified set of sustainable activities in terms of managing forests, managing land, can lead to improved incomes. Okay, these are communities when I joined WWF 4 or 5 years ago that were struggling, but today these communities are doing better off because they're able to take their kids to school. They've been able to improve their farms. They've facilitated through their own incomes some level of infrastructure. Now they're able to irrigate their farms, something that they were not able to do. So the level of consistency they've had, I think for me, provides as a great example. And again, when we talk about our work on policy, our ask is that policy should multiply those kinds of farmers that are consistently producing their food in a nature positive way, that are consistently promoting practices, and then also they have basically been able to engage as real farmers on a range of activities, from farming on the fields to livestock production, to honey production. And for us, I just want to emphasize that for the communities we've worked with, that's what we've seen as a source of resilience, because they're not depending on only one source of income. That's one. Secondly, we've also seen that collective action between NGOs and between communities has also helped to build the resilience at the ecosystem level, because if the ecosystem is degraded and the ecosystem is unhealthy, then it will not be able to support the biodiversity, and it will not be able to support the people that live within that particular area. So it's not either or. I think work has to be done alongside others. Is critically important, but also we need to look at things at the farm level, but at the ecosystem level as well. Thank you.
Sorry, I have to keep on asking. Can you hear me? I wanted to ask if you can elaborate more on the community resource management boards, because I believe that that's one part of the community work that WWF has done over the past few years, and this has helped the communities to build resilience. Are you able to give us more detail on the work that we've been doing with community resource boards?
Okay, so it's been a range of activities that we've done with the community resource boards. As you know, these communities that we work with are not just impacted by climate change, they're not just impacted by environmental degradation or COVID. They are also, their fields and lives are constantly under threat because they live side by side with wildlife. So some of the work that has been done through the community resource boards is to mobilize communities to get involved in wildlife-related activities so that they value the wildlife. So they've worked with us to help map what are referred to as wildlife corridors. These are, for lack of a better term, the main streets that wildlife use from time to time. And usually when communities move in these areas, settle in these areas, they become more vulnerable to their fields being destroyed. So with the CRBs, they've helped us mobilize communities to basically identify these corridors. They've also participated in supporting communities build some fences that have helped to deter wildlife, say, from coming in to destroy gardens. And then also we've worked with these CRBs to promote what is referred to as predator-proof kraals, right? Where livestock is protected from attack by wildlife. So they have been an education partner in the community. They've also actually participated in a number of these empowerment activities. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Indeed, there's nothing that we can do without the currency of the communities. If we have to continue what we are doing, obviously we need to make sure that the communities are understanding why we are there. And now back to you, Dr. Banda. Are you able to give us more detail about how the voices of the marginalized communities in Zambia have improved with the VCA project?
Thank you very much. As we said, we have many projects that we implement in an integrated manner. One of them is called Voices for Just Climate Action. It's a Dutch-funded project under the overall theme of Power of Voices. So basically, this is a project, or for now I'll use that terminology, project, but I'll elaborate more. So for the idea behind this activity or project is to educate the communities, first and foremost, that they have got the rights to claim on issues of climate or just climate action. Okay.
Sorry, we have to disturb Dr. Banda. Welcome. Would like now to announce the arrival of the Royal Highness Chief Mukuni from Livingstone, Zambia. We welcome you, sir. So we are just going to give him a breather so that Dr. Banda can finish his line of thought.
Yes, I was talking about the Voices for Just Climate Action. I'll be very brief. I was saying this project, the idea is we go in to enlighten and educate the masses that they've got the rights to just climate action. So we start from the bottom there, facilitating, educating them with a view that they can also come and voice their concerns at the COP. It culminates at the COP. Yeah, so there are so many activities we do culminating into the COP, and the idea is that they should lead the process and not ourselves. Can I continue? I continue?
Because of time, we would like to go to the chief. We just have one question with him, and we hope that by that time, because we're of limited time. So, Your Royal Highness, welcome again. Would like to find out from you what perceptions you have of WWF Zambia, the work that they are doing in general in southern Zambia and in the country as a whole. What message can you give to people that are here today on the work that we have been doing?
I can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
Okay,
can you hear me
okay.
now?
Yes.
I'd like to find out what your perceptions of WWF Zambia's work is in Zambia, Southern Province, as well as the country as a whole. And what message would you have for the people that are here today with regards to conservation?
After attending a meeting with them, I found we were partners. I was converted to their ideals and things like that. So I think the thing that we're talking about, we're busy doing them in the community. So I said, well, I didn't know where to go to get partners. But once we were at that meeting, I realized they are my true partners.
Let me just add, thank you, Your Royal Highness. I think for the sake of the audience, His Royal Highness Chief Mukuni is one of the leading advocates on development issues, not only in his local area, but nationally. He's also been a keen supporter in terms of really supporting nature-positive conservation and development activities in his area. So when you look at the challenge of climate change in Zambia, the biggest problem we've had is the issue of water. All right, water has become more scarce because of climate change, but also it has been made worse because we haven't looked after our river systems, we haven't looked after our freshwater systems in particular. So you find the problem of water stress is big for communities, for farmers, and for wildlife. And His Royal Highness lives in an area, manages in an area where these issues actually manifest themselves. He's one of the two, for the work that WWF Zambia or WWF globally does, the role of traditional leaders is very important in terms of really facilitating the platform for communities to provide leadership on solutions, but also for them to be connected to the policy program. So part of the work that we've been doing, I mentioned earlier, around ecosystems, has been to look at the health of our water basins and our river system, looking at areas where rivers have dried up, and what can we do as a community, as a people, to stop these rivers from drying up, but also to restore them. So we had a conference where we were discussing this, but His Royal Highness was already doing that with the community in his area. So maybe he can speak a little bit about that in terms of, one, the challenges that led to that condition, but secondly, what his community is also doing in that respect. Thank you very much. I just wanted to add that context for those of you who may not know our Royal Highness. Thank you very much. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Country Director. We are trying to, in mitigating the climate change impacts, as a people, we realized our surface water bodies were dwindling. So we started restoring one of the streams. And we saw this next door to us, which is in Zimbabwe, at Dibangombe, where they're also doing restorations of streams that had dried up. So far, the results are very good. You see, one thing you notice is that, that I noticed was that I went to Ruapula, and almost every 5 kilometers you find a stream flowing. It's perennial. And then I was asking myself, why? Then I realized to say, our friends in Ruapula, they don't keep cattle. So in short, there are no animals watering in their streams. But with us, we believe in somebody having hundreds of cattle. And then we let them water from the streams. As they go to water from the stream, they loosen the soils around the banks. So when the rains come, that soil, causes silting into the streams. Now, what we have realized is that what we need to do is not to water our animals at the streams or rivers, but instead establish troughs where they can drink from away from the river banks. Even gardening, we realize also, because growing of maize had become very, very difficult. So a lot of our people have gone into growing vegetables, and in short, to rely on irrigation rather than rain-fed crops. So we have told our people to establish their gardens very far away from the in national forest. What we are using now, we are using borehole instead of stream waters to water the gardens and so on. We are using solar power to pump the water from the ground into a tank, and then by gravity to the gardens. It's working very well.
That is very interesting. So one thing that can lead to prosperity can also lead to the community being destroyed. So in short, the communities in your chiefdom have been educated on what they need to do with regards to the livestock that they have. And then you've also talked about the neighboring Zimbabwe, where there's a different way that has been done. Are you able to elaborate more how you think your community can adapt to that kind of grazing, especially where grazing is concerned, since you have a lot of animals in your area?
Like I said, when we realized that we cannot rely on rain-fed crops, we decided, to fall back onto irrigation. So far, we are having cooperatives where women and men normally establish cooperatives, and then they are given pumps by Mukuni Development Trust and solar power by Mukuni Development Trust, by Butterfly. They are organized based in Mukuni to spearhead development.
Thank you very much. So at this point, I would like now to invite the panel in just 1 minute or under 2 minutes to just give their closing remarks with regards to our discussion today. I'll start with Dr. Banda. Any last word from your side?
Thank you very much. In less than 1 minute, WWF is implementing inclusive conservation in an integrated manner, and the quality assurance is there. The donors can trust us, and everyone can trust us with their resources, that we are doing a good job and we have what it takes to implement inclusive conservation in Zambia. Thank you.
Madam Lachla.
Thank you so much. I want to thank again His Royal Highness for joining us and really bringing an authentic voice to this topic on resilience. I think as WWF, our starting point is that we cannot achieve resilience for communities of our economies if our ecosystems are not looked after. So in Zambia and in other parts of the world where we're working, I think that's a key starting point. Understanding what's in these ecosystems and making sure that we are managing this natural capital very well. Success in building resilience is not just one activity. It's a mix of activities where you facilitate local communities to provide leadership in terms of what works. Because what may work in community X may not work in community Y. And the role of WWF and others is to have an eye in terms of what communities are saying is working, and for us to support the scaling up of those solutions. This issue about building resilience is important. We know that on the African continent, already 500,000 people's lives have been lost because of climate-related disasters. It's not necessary. We also know that when it comes to costs as a result of climate emergencies, when you look at responding to disasters and also the recovery effort, the continent of Africa understand, according to the climate adaptation, Global Climate Adaptation Center, we're paying to the funds to the tune of 210 billion. That's too much money. But if we take steps community by community, country by country, to change our policies, to target our public finances, to make sure that we are building resilience, we are going to reduce vulnerabilities of these communities. So thank you so much once more for coming. I'm going to hand you over now to His Royal Highness to give his last word of counsel. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I want to say that in order to help WWF, not really to help them, to help ourselves, we are rolling out our success story of restoring the streams in our area by getting to other chiefdoms, work with them. We believe we don't need money from WWF. No, a little way we are raising our money through Mukuni Development Trust and through Butterfly, so which we want to extend to other chiefdoms. In Southern Province, actually, we as chiefs, we met and agreed to go that way. So, in short, when I said to roll out, these are the part of the things that we agreed to do. So I think they will begin with Mukuni. The chiefs will come to Mukuni. We'll go to Zimbabwe as well to see what they are doing, and then we'll go back to see how we can help each other.
Thank you very much, panel. And just a recap of what has been said, obviously, to wrap it up. We are saying that WWF Zambia is a trusted organization in regards to conservation, and we cannot achieve resilience if our ecosystem is not looked after. We need to take care of our natural capital and provide leadership to the communities. And lastly, we are going to show a case study of the restoration of the river in Chief Mukuni's area, which is going to be a study that people all over Southern Province can come and see how to take care of their communities. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for coming, and we hope to see you again when we have another of this kind of a session. Good morning. Have a group photo in front.